All right. Well, so let's get it on. Welcome to another Thursday meeting here, and it's how wonderful to see all of you come in and say hello. Yeah. I would like to start us off by inviting one simple inner movement, which is the letting go. And I know that everyone is going through so many things in this time that also makes it hard sometimes to truly and fully drop in and down as consciousness, as wakefulness, as beingness. So because of this, the whole inner movement of letting go is extremely important. I'm going to come more into this later, but for now I think we should just engage for a moment from the very core of that letting go. So I invite you to sit yourself straight. I invite you, I know many like to take their feet up during meditation and to cross them, but I want to invite you to actually sit, if possible, put your feet on the floor so that you have like feet connecting with the ground beneath you. And then I invite you to close your eyes and to let yourself deeply sense the frequency of your body presently, the frequency of your being in your body right now. And as you sense this frequency, allow yourself to let go through the head, and let go of the shoulders. Let go in the chest area. Let go in your solar plexus. Let go in your belly. And along the sides also, especially the rib cage. Letting go along the sides of the rib cage. That's often where we can basically have like a tightness or a holding, which is based on contraction instead of just pure openness of presence. And just allow yourself to really sink into the very ground of yourself, sink into your body. Allow yourself to let go in through your very insides of the body. And let go also to just really rest fully and uncompromisingly into your belly. Just that kind of relaxation that's sensed as a fullness of being, a fullness of rest, a fullness that invites that sensitivity as well. As you allow this inner letting go and that inner release, I could say, allow yourselves to keep a sensitivity to the soles of your feet, kind of like allowing the relaxation down through the body space. And then continuing also to be sensitive to and awake to your connection with the earth. Mhm. And to actually sit in the state of let go also means to not hatch onto or grasp any movements arising inside yourself, yet to be there as the openness of presence and the openness of yourself as pure breath, as life. Let your shoulders relax, your backside, your front. Release any tightness around your rib cage, your heart, your solar plexus. And simply let be and be present. And just let the beauty of your own inner knowing of yourself arrive inside the body space. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we just keep on letting the inner invitation be, and letting go, and letting go, and letting go. A relaxation up towards any or either of the edges you may find inside. Whether there be a full allowing of emptiness, a full allowing of feelings in weight, or whatever else may be the case in this moment for you. You don't have to be someone right now. You can simply allow yourself to let go, to trust life. I'm going to slide over to the first question here. And as usually, I'll probably invite deeper into relaxation later, so we'll just let it dance the way it does. Yeah. Well, actually, before I go into the questioning, I had something I wanted to turn with you guys in a way. The nature of grief has very much been with me in the last days. There's been a stronger invitation to be with, to contain, to stand feeling of what is happening to us on a collective scale now. And the fact that the stop that has happened to everyone's lives basically is an invitation into the bottom line, because that which people have used to keep going and to keep on turning themselves outwards very much has been robbed away in this time. So in many ways, we have a situation here where we need to start dealing with and coming to terms with the nature of grief that is happening. And we need to do this in a somewhat quiet way. And the quiet way into that meeting with grief is that, for one, grief isn't a feeling as a passing feeling, as much as it's an arrival of ourselves into that ground where we are not whole yet. So it's something with coming into that ground where we sense and we feel how much has been lost in terms of our own deeper connection with ourselves, and with reality. Yeah, I find that there is much work for all of us to do, basically, in terms of becoming honest with this place in ourselves where there's room for the relaxation. And also, I also acknowledge, I recognize that there is a hardship involved with coming down, because there is a general lack of trust in life, in terms of meeting that grief truthfully and honestly, basically. But the more courageously we stand in the ability to embrace that ground and become honest in that ground, whether we know what's happening or not. I guess I just want to say that that ground of grief is a major part of life in this time, and the addiction to happiness as an attempt to reach that as an endpoint of some sort, or I can only say that the breath of life seems to go deeper into every alley of emotion that we can meet as a part of being alive here in this time, as a part of witnessing the effect and the losses of what's going on, the losses on our freedom, the losses on our perceived freedom, the losses of our way of life, the losses of our idea of or sense of security, the loss of our idea of a solid world picture in some sense. Yeah. Yeah, there is definitely grief to be met across the entirety of the human species in this time. And while it's well, I've been standing with this invitation for close to a decade now for for everyone, but somehow it's easier for people to kind of just look the other way or say, well, that's not for me or something, when life is offering like 200 other options. But really, in this time where we're all sent home, it's here we are, and there's very little to consider here now. And what really makes sense is to take the pieces of I could almost say advice that comes in meeting that ground, and also if nothing else, then to take the invitation and the words that the grief is not forever. The loss of navigation and yeah, the loss of, well, the confusion around the whole coming down and what's happening and where is this coming from and all of this. Again, it doesn't last forever. And there is an intelligence inside of us, and a deeper knowing of that deep ground of wisdom that is awakening in us through it, and the love that is born through it, through meeting it honestly, that actually comes to life through our willingness to pass this and to basically return to our roots in many ways. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Okay, let's do some questions then. how to authentically start to believe that I am loved by myself, partner, and God. Well, the main word that springs out here is believe. It's not something to believe. It's the application of your love to yourself, the opening of yourself as a softening towards yourself, the embrace of your state of humanness as a softening compassion, and the application of love to yourself will bring you that deeper knowing. I will rather call it that than belief. But the love of yourself, and especially when you use the word authentically, the authentic love is basically you applying yourself as your masculine part to your feminine. So there's a deep inner embrace waiting to take place there. And as I say, it's got nothing to do with belief. It's got everything to do with inner knowing, with commitment, and with recognition, especially when it comes to the God part. There's a deep allowing there, which is waiting to take place. It's something like being willing to give up that in you which is convinced that you are unworthy of that love. Yeah. And then you mentioned this with, I mean, there's so much to say on all of these, but the part of loved by yourself, loved by your partner, and loved by God, it's like three major major topics. The loved by myself part, very much the compassion and the embrace of yourself and the holding of yourself as consciousness, and the internalization of your presence into your being and into your body, from that place of which side of themselves on something, either this or that, this person or that situation, or involved in thought of the past or the future. That there's something about stepping in and taking responsibility for your attention, taking responsibility for your attention, for your loving attention, and then starting to direct that attention inwards into your body, into your being, and to invite yourself to actually start inviting the deeper recognition of yourself, becoming interested in who and what you are. Yeah. And then you say, and then as I said, the God part, that's a recognition part, that's a realization part that comes with recognizing that you yourself, that you are love, and at the same time with the total acknowledgement of your inner longing for God. That there is a continuous inner letting go into the arms of God. And along that way is an increasing commitment to take care of all of God's creation and to play your part in that. And in everything that you do, to acknowledge that when you are touching any part of this creation, you are touching God. You are taking care and you are making love with God. Yeah. And then you say this about the partner. You see, the partner thing is like, that's a whole thing in itself. There's a journey, of course, in the partnership, which is extremely interesting, and I would love to discuss it with you. But to go specifically on what you say here, how do I authentically start believing that I am loved by my partner? Well, this very much comes down to the relationship, basically, doesn't it? To be in a relationship, I find, is to be in an open-ended invitation to both the endless greatness of the profound and an invitation to the innermost and deepest intimacy and the peeling naked in a way I could say that to me, the intimate relationship, the partnership, is an invitation to endless support in our growth and endless love and intimacy and holding in and to and for the smallest parts somehow. And I find that it is one big invitation, basically. One big invitation to surrender. Surrender beyond all of those edges, whether those edges are towards the intimacy or the edges are towards the profound and the endlessness between us and in us. Yeah. I'm in a partnership presently, and I find that it's both wonderful and challenging to be with another human being, and both because there is always, I mean, all people are different, but I find there is a great invitation for me in it to have and to learn, basically, on a very basic human level, also for me, to be in like supporting and loving, in a supporting and loving dance, basically. So when you say this about how to start believing that I'm loved by my partner, for one, in the relationship, I find that the greatest movement there is always to start with looking at oneself and to attend to one's own surrender. There is endless invitation to start looking at the other. And it's not that there's never a reason to be in the, clarification field together, of course. But inside of that, there is room for so much love as well. And I could say that I don't think I would be interested in being in a partnership unless there is that basic ground of like a really strong love there. So I don't really find that it's something that love is something I have to start believing in, because if I lost that belief, if I had a deeper inner knowing that ground of love wasn't the case for the partnership, then there is absolutely no room for me to be in that partnership. So somehow this is also a part of giving ourselves the gift and allowing ourselves to be worthy of that love. And inside of that, of course, also to know that we are equally responsible in a relationship for the holding and the holding of that ground of love together. But if it's in a partnership, it's always between two, of course, so it can't be one holding everything. Yeah, something like that. Ooh. Yes. Okay, one more sip of tea. Mm. Yeah. How to peel off all my internal manipulations, beliefs, stories, and identities. This is a big question. Yeah. Well, to start with one, the manipulations. To reach the end of manipulation, we need to fully come in to hold our that place inside of ourselves which is cut off from reality, which is cut off from love. So what is happening in terms of manipulation is that we are in a very distorted relationship with power. We are in a distorted relationship with life. And to unwind these, or I could say to extract these seeds of manipulation from our way of life, we need to, first of all, come into a full and complete and strong commitment to truth. Because from that deeper commitment to truth, we can hold everything in us which is dishonest up towards our innermost longing, our innermost call for being real. With that said, then there are many manipulations that are going on in life which has so many different layers. So there are those manipulations that are about distrusting the way of life. And then there are those manipulations that go all the way down to such subtleness that it's about, it can be in the subtleties of holding back our voice, or using our voice to enforce, or basically using our actions or our speech or our mind to push things around in disagreement with how things are, from a place of deep rest in Anna's presence. So manipulation itself has a ground of distrust, a ground of arrogance, a ground of disagreement with God, basically. What I find is basically at the bottom of manipulation is great anger. I find the manipulation rises as mostly from a place of self-protection, and not in the good way. I mean, protecting the egoic self, protecting the believed identity. Yeah. I kind of love to go into all of these topics, and I could sit here and speak for 2 hours about just manipulation. I mean, yeah, I find there is a retraction from the someone using power that needs to take place. That someone needs to kind of die and return into the embrace of, or in the lap of God, or the lap of Source inside, and to stay there resting. And from a place of learning to trust and learning the flexibility of being rather than the hardness of use of force. To learn that it's actually possible to bend instead of break when it comes to existence, and also to see that also it's our fear of breaking that often makes us make that move of manipulation. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that was the internal manipulations. They really do call for a deep, deep rooting in trust of life, especially when you speak about this with the internal manipulations. Something about surrendering to the way of life and to find a stability in your commitment, a stability in your application as love. Because manipulation is always connected with pushing or pulling, and both pushing and pulling is it's a doing, even on these very internal levels. And for here, for instance, this that I said about the speech and the misuse of speech, just the purification of speech that happens through deep burning up of the someone that is that control which is on the speech, which holds back, afraid of saying something, or which also can push speech forward to attain something. It's all a matter of attaining inner balance, inner centering, deep inner relaxation, and simply trust that you don't have to be someone pushing things around for things to be the way that they actually are and have to be, because it is how it is. Yeah. How to peel off the beliefs. Yeah, the belief system is, yeah, we have the belief system on a mental level, like the purification of the mind. And then we have a belief system in the body, which basically is very simply based on past experience. It's like your body is an animal body. And if it's had a certain experience, then it kind of takes a holding, a being present with whatever is there of previous experience that has like affected the system in terms of turning it left or right, this direction or that direction. And the beliefs in the body very much are a part of the reactive system in terms of the emotions that arise inside, and especially connected with the fear. Yeah. So the purification of the mind is it's a breaking down of all of the assumptions. It's a breaking down of and a letting go of everything that you think you know, And it's basically returning to a state of openness wherein you, from the core of your mind, acknowledge that you don't know anything, and then allow yourself to return to the deepest listening possible through that knowing nothing. Because it's kind of like you have to reduce all of these boxes that you have created in your mind, which puts everything into its place. And the only way to do that is to ask ourselves the right questions, and to basically allow ourselves to question everything which we take for granted. It's a hell of a, let's say, a deconstruction process, and but it's wonderful. It's completely wonderful, and it's going to leave you extremely naked to that non-knowing, which I know also is scary for a lot of people. But to say it straight, once we have gotten used to the freedom of non-knowing, which is just the most scary part, basically. The more that we can allow ourselves to be in that non-knowing, the more room there is for life. And then the space of those boxes basically is replaced by just an endless stream of life, and thereby an arrival of true wisdom, a wisdom that can't really be there if we are sit and structured in the boxes and the beliefs and the conclusions, very much the conclusions. Yeah. The stories, yes, there is something to the acknowledgement of both the fact that you, as a human being, you have a history, and then there's also the fact of the invitation from the mind to be in yourself, to rest and drop deep down in yourself. But to do that as clarity. What often happens is that when a centering happens of the mind, it becomes a sharpness. And the deeper invitation here is basically to come into a state of being where there is clarity without sharpness. Because the sharpness has a center of hardness to it. So it's kind of like the invitation from the hard core to the soft core kind of stands with that invitation to turn the sharpness into clarity. But the clarity itself is compassion. The clarity is the clear seeing connected with the kind being, in a way. Yeah. Yeah. The identities, how to peel off the identities. I'd say it rather like this. The rings of identification that exists in your mind, the rings of identification that exists in your heart, the rings of identification that exists in your belly, all are leading you into 3 separate journeys of dissolving the identity on each of these 3 levels. It is 3 journeys in the sense that there is different logic counting for your head, your heart, and your belly. In your belly, it's very much that purification of the power, and it's a coming into the vastness of an endless space of holding in the belly, on belly level. And it's the force of creation, to say it straight. On the heart level, to lose our identity on the heart level is the same as breaking down the hierarchy of love inside. And to purify the heart in the sense of coming to the very core of the heart. And I find that the masculine, the divine masculine, is very much at the seat of the heart, and the divine feminine very much is at the seat of the belly. while the absolute and the empty nature of all things is the seed behind the mind. So yeah, to come through the identity in the mind, we need to really let life return to the absolute. We need to let life return to the void, to acknowledge, to realize the primordial silence, and that silence which is before life, which is before God. And then in our heart and in our belly, we can realize God as the masculine and as the feminine. And both of them requires us also to get beyond the identity. And we can only do that in the heart by losing our hierarchy of loving, and in the belly by losing our fear of power, our loss of innocence, our abuse of power, to find our way back to our innocence, and to basically to bow ourselves to the ground and to grow beyond that somebodiness that arises in the belly. Yeah. There's something extra to be said on that, which is that in the belly, it isn't about peeling off the identity. If anything, I'd say, and maybe I'll say that for the whole, for the heart as well, there's something like, there's or maybe especially in the ground, yeah, there's like an invitation to a fulfillment present, which can only allow you to pass beyond the somebodiness through giving your innermost callings and desires, kind of, to give them to her, and give them to her in a way where you are open to the fulfillment of these desires, but you are not standing with a requirement of their fulfillment as a prior to your surrender. To somehow be willing to surrender ourselves into the arms of her, God in the ground, God through the belly, the power of creation. It is an invitation to total fulfillment. It's an invitation that says that only through passing the grounds of this fulfillment, only through success actually, can we truly come into that fulfillment that allows us to vaporize, to dissolve on that ground level. So there is something to the story that we need to live, you know, and where the body is very much involved. And I can even speak about it as a very the dissolution itself, I find to be almost like experiences waiting like pearls on a string. And that the movements of your life and of you in life somehow needs to come past pearl after pearl for the dissolution of that part of your somebodiness in the ground to go poof. That there can't actually be a real and full wholeness, or disappearance is probably the word, because the wholeness we can attain, you know, that's like healing the wounds and stuff like this, but actually living ourselves through these aspects of our human experience which we have been calling for, that they are somehow in there as waiting to be fulfilled, that as they are fulfilled we become lighter and lighter. As air, kind of. And then also to say something about that ground of the identity in the belly, that there is one specific aspect which is really significant, which is to know something that you probably experience in yourself and in a lot of other people, is this addiction to intensity. And to see and acknowledge that the addiction to intensity somehow is also to be aware of not getting addicted to the sense of self, and especially as you're growing into the ground, to acknowledge that that is a major trap in that unfolding in the ground, that addiction to the strength and the intensity of one's own self. And I'm saying this because this is exactly where I see most people tripping. I see that they open themselves to receive more of themselves. But then in that process of receiving themselves, they get so hung up from that urge of call to God, or which then is translated into addiction to intensity. They get addicted to the intensity of the self which is arriving. And it is really an invitation to the loss of humility in this equation. Yeah. Mm. Yes. The way to come to live a truly centered, rooted breath of reality, I would rather call it. Your entire system awaits to be delivered into the hands of truth. So when I see this question underneath, how to fully die to truth right now and forever, I can only say that integration takes a lifetime. The inner urge to die to truth, the truth itself, to pass beyond existence as truth and the truth body. By the way, up here, realization, recognition of source through the head is the truth body unfolding. Realization of truth through the heart is the action body. It's the full scope of existence showing itself. Prior to existence, existence itself. And in the belly, we have the force of creation. We have the passion and the power. Yeah. So when you say die to truth right now and forever, I can only say, how many years have it even been now? Wow. 20 years or something here of cultivating truth. And when I say cultivating truth, I mean I've been living truth extremely radically, and that you can do. You don't get to decide how strongly or how quickly truth comes in. That all depends on the level of your dedication, the level of your and the strength of your call for resolution inside, of your loyalty to truth, of your call to truth. That is what determines how quickly things get. And that has very much to do with your readiness, basically, your readiness to become real. But I can only say that this here and now thing, you can go in the here and now thing, you can go through a number of shifts of consciousness. And if you speak about truth as beyond the beyond, like if you speak about truth as the void, then there is a here and now kind of, and the answer is die. Inside, die. Like, lay down and die. It's not an action thing, it's a lie down and completely go. And you can pass beyond. But with that said, in terms of living reality, in terms of living truth, for that to be able to happen, it's kind of like you can let go into that black void, poof, and disappear. And even to cultivate the ground of the empty nature of that void, you actually have to disappear into and merge with that void for a good chunk of time to solidify the recognition of that void. So it's not just a dying and then returning. It's a dying and then it's a dying deeper, and it's a dying deeper, and it's just a disappearing, complete, dying to void, null, nothing, nada, zip. Yeah. And every realization needs to be stabilized. It is not a kind of thing, and it isn't a kind of thing because we all stand with these bodies which have been and are a part of this world, which have grown up in this and this environment, and so on and so forth. So in the sense of allowing a fulfillment and not just a disappearance, but an appearance, an incarnation of becoming truth in form. That takes time because truth needs to come in and basically hold us through all of these earlier wirings and the conditioning which has taken place from very, very early years, basically. But the whole resolution part is a very big part of, and also to say, that's the interesting part. Realizing the pristine silence is, I mean, it's immensely beautiful, yes. But I don't know about you, but I like a good challenge. And I find it extremely interesting and actually fun to do the little resolutions that basically starts straightening out the entire relationship with existence. And we can only do that if we can be humble in the face of our challenges, and that we're not trying to embrace truth from a place of hoping or wishing for it all to be over, kind of thing. There is so much more to life, and there is a deeper and much greater fulfillment waiting by allowing us to take the challenge, to look at those places where life is teasing, and to basically find that the deeper that we surrender ourselves to life, the more clearly, cleanly, and directly life moves through us. And I want to say that I find that although there is constantly an invitation to learn, for instance, as I said, like in the intimate relationship, like wonderful, like new ways to develop greater flexibility of this or that aspect of being or humanness, or and so on and so forth. I find it to be extremely interesting and inspiring to use the energy in those directions of. But I want to say that every time that anything has been touched, also I experienced that whatever was challenging, it vaporizes, as in like challenge accepted and solved, in the sense of apply love, apply the nature of silence, apply the deep dedication, and things they resolve. Maybe not like this, but that just means that there is a learning in it for you, and that the deeper you allow yourself to go into the true expression of whatever it is you're touching, whether it's an aspect of yourself, an aspect of your life, like your work or your family or partnership or whatever it is, like parenthood or parents or whatever it is, that they're basically, or art, like art, the expression in art, whatever it is, that there is an invitation for us to perfect it and to really apply the deeper wisdom and really discover ourselves through the resolution of these challenges. So any aspect which is basically trying to get away from anything, I mean, it doesn't make much sense in my book, at least. Yeah, I understand also that we all have to some degree an aspect of fearing the intensity of being fully alive. And I call it intensity because it can be extremely intense, especially in that growing into the ground. It can be extremely intense to be with the full scope of our humanness and all of the feelings. Yeah, I think I saw someone ask a question about that further down, so I'm just gonna wait with that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. How to realize who I truly am and live it fully. It seems like these questions are all kind of on the same thread. And in a way, I could say that to realize who you truly are, you need to be actually interested in allowing the gem of your innermost to be invited, to be discovered, to be explored, to be held in the light of what's real and what's not. And to approach yourself with real interest and willingness to investigate and to love beyond anything, and to also to take the consequence of being you in many ways, in terms of allowing yourself to, now they say this with like, to live it fully, to allow yourself to make the mistakes you need to make by always being willing to do your best and to fail and to learn through the failing, and to basically just be really truly dedicated with and in love to letting life happen, to letting you happen, to finding out who you are. Yeah. Okay, what does that mean?
There's quite a few questions. Continuous.
Oh. Yes. Yes. Okay, I'll move on. How can one best remain present, open, and available through the whirlwind of ever-changing emotions that are arising at this time? Yes, this is a wonderful question. The thing is, for us to be able to be fully, stably present and rooted in the ground, we have to lose the preference of feeling, which states that we are willing to feel some things and not other things, that we're willing to feel some things only to a certain extent, and then not in depth. And I'd say that the biggest invitation is the full commitment and the real humility to the ground. What I find is that we need to meet the pain that lies in our ground in a way where, where we grow into being in the ground. That growing into being is equal to a continuous willingness to apply ourselves as compassion. Because the more that we apply ourselves with that willingness to feel, and when I say compassion, I mean as loving attention to that ground inside. Every time that we apply ourselves as that love, we reach a maximum. And in that maximum, we need to be willing to feel the different layers of, I want to say it straight, well, the for one, the pain, the grief of the disconnection we make, but then also, in some cases, the despair and the devastation that can be in that ground. And we need to approach this from a willingness to be in life, as in we can't touch it while a part of us wishes to go away. We can't approach this from an arrogance of wanting it to be over. We have to be with it from a place of allowing life to be life, allowing life to be all that it is, and to be humble towards that in a way where we make the commitment to be present in each moment. I know it can be so hard to stay open and available, but somehow to be with ourselves in a compassionate way also when we fail to be open. And to know also that our growing into compassion and our availability and our love all operates on a deeper invitation and a deeper intelligence and a deeper wisdom also. And I want to say also that as we go into that ground and being present with all of the feelings and all of this, we are also in periods we max out. We max out in the sense of the capacity of our beingness, in its ability to hold all of this overwhelming life that is happening, right? So whenever that we reach that edge, to allow ourselves to be kind to ourselves in those moments also really matters. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. There is nothing wrong with letting yourself exhale. And right in this time, I want to say it's such a change we're going through. Oh my God, everyone. But it's also such an opportunity. I mean, everyone home now, and now it's been like a month here in Denmark, and we were just told it will be another month. But I mean, when did everyone ever have a chance to actually be educated on this being present level in a way which didn't disturb with something else? Because okay, if the family and the job and the all of these things that we're usually so busy with, when all of a sudden the coast is kind of clear, there's an invitation here for us to actually practice that compassion and to grow stronger and stronger in it. And it feels incredibly important for all of us that we actually go through that education, through that inner education, and to also remember to be kind to ourselves in it, so that we not only consider that that openness and availability to be around towards our surroundings, which is also like it's a secondary thing. The first and foremost must be the willingness to be present with everything inside, as you say, the changing emotions that are happening, and also to go through the education that comes with that, and the deeper feelings of whether it is grief or frustrations or fear or joy, and like everything that comes with that. There's so much beauty in all of this, and I think it's extremely important that we recognize that there is a deep invitation in this, and simply to do our best, and also be kind when we trip and fall a bit in that, and not try to force ourselves to be perfect at all times, but in that also to remain really honest towards what is going on in us, and knowing that that openness towards the ground now is more important than anything, basically. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. A whirlwind it is indeed. And I find that the more we can be honest with the devastation and the grief in the ground, the less we try to avoid what we need to be present with. And I find that that somehow is the main challenge for us, is to be with that grief, be with the sadness, because I don't know, somehow we think that we have to have a reason to feel what we're feeling, and actually we don't need to have a reason to be who we are and to be present with what's in us. So yeah. Mm. A question here. Something in me is very afraid of the deep ground of being. How to deal with the constant tension, the impotence, resistance to really being present. Yeah. In a way, I could say that it seems to me that our fear of being itself often has a deeper seed of fear of death that is not really being, which is feared, but the fact that the someone who is there when being is not needs to be surrendered. And of course, that is the answer in terms of the end of the constant tension. That you are your own master. And when you take responsibility for allowing your insides to relax, then being itself and the rising of presence, the arrival of life, can take place. But that can be a very intense experience for the someone who's dying. I'm aware of this. But I also want to say that we can fear different aspects of our meeting with truth. Some people fear the feelings. Some people fear the end, or like truth as the emptiness. Some people fear basically fear love and the fire of love, the fire of truth. And basically in a way I could say that it's always fear that stands between you and reality. I mean, every aspect of being someone is built as stone upon stone of fear, in terms of the way in which we contract from and look away from reality. And it's a strong statement, I know, but that's the reality. I find that fear is the only thing that falls away, and that the more that we can allow ourselves to let go, the more we also can lose these edges, seeming edges up against reality. But reality is already there, so it's more something with allowing our minds to expand and our hearts to expand and our ground to expand, to become the endless, to become the eternity, which is actually already the case, but which we're just from the angle of perception somehow are keeping ourselves from relating to, from being one with, from falling in love with, I could say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh. Mm-hmm. Can the state of not knowing also be used to escape choices? Can the state of not knowing also be used to escape choices? Yes, of course. Of course. The thing is that choices, it's kind of like we take a journey from the somebodiness into the dissolution and unity with reality, right? So from that place of dismantling our minds, our belief systems, and coming into, or to the acknowledgement that actually the only thing that's left is the deeper listening, is the trust in the authority of your being and a relationship with reality. From that place, there isn't really choices to be made. It's more like a listening to and a bowing to the choices which are made from a much deeper place. But to the extent that non-knowing is used to escape choices, that is in the moment where it becomes something, where not knowing is grasped by the someone rather than acknowledged, and then become an invitation to turn in and down and listen. So emptying, great, but the emptying should be emptying the noise, emptying the conclusions and all of this. Great, but the deeper inwards turning to listen, and the walking with the deeper listening, and the walking with in a way where we don't use our fears to try and obscure what we need to do to learn what we need to learn and to become what we need to become, kind of. Yeah. Wow, now there's a lot of questions and approximately a few minutes left. I'm gonna have to jump a little here. The thing is that I would really like to answer all of these questions, but yeah, I know we have 90 minutes, and whomever I can't do right now, I really invite you to please pop up next time and pop in your question uh, as at the top as quickly as possible. So because I take them from one end, I kind of have to. Yeah. Yeah. Just give me a second here. Oh yeah, I feel to bring up this to what I was saying before in regards to being present with all of the feelings that happen in this time, and the word overwhelm actually is a quite significant part of it, because we are going to find ourselves feeling and being extremely overwhelmed in waves, and that's why I'm saying that it really makes sense for us to also be kind and compassionate and give ourselves a breather of digesting in between all of the living that is taking place in a way, in that upright position where, okay, now we're relating to everything that's going on. Give yourself a moment also now and then to just, and then just deal with how you feel right now, because everything will call from, or will call for a lot from you, in terms of operating more and more truthfully, and your digestion in between is really, really important. Yeah. And that actually means to give yourself some alone time, and to take this time right now to value that alone time, to value being present with yourself, and basically to drop, or at least not run along with those aspects of you which just wants to kind of like zoom out or something, and just spend time not really relating to anything. So spend your time really relating to yourself and digesting is a really good thing. Yeah. And sometimes related, like digesting can also just be lying and listening to music, and just, that's actually a great tool to make some playlists of music that touch you in specific moods, or specific invitations of deepening inside, and to let yourself listen and relax into your body and be with whatever needs to be felt and dealt with. Yeah. Overwhelm. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yes. Thank you, Aisha, for doing your best to articulate that which is beyond words. Yeah, I'd say sometimes. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, let me see. Do I have time for? No, actually, I don't have time for. Okay, fine. Yeah, shit. I really wanna. I really wanna go with all the rest of you. Would you please bring them to the table the next time? I very much look forward to sit with you again, and I thank you for showing up. It's a lot of fun, and I feel a very deep connection with all of you in your questions, and just in the fact of our attention meeting like this, just in your living room and here in mine. Yeah. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time, Thursday, same time, same place. Bye.